Hello again, everybody. I'm excited to jump back in after a couple weeks off of podcasting just to kind of tie up the summer for my family. And I wanted to talk to you today about how to know what you need when it comes to balancing your hormones. Obviously, I am a registered nurse. I have nearly 20 years of clinical experience working both in the hospital, outside of hospital settings, before advancing my degree in education and really specifying in hormones, or advancing my degree to really focus in on balancing hormones for women. And if you haven't heard my full story, I'll share just a teeny tiny bit today so that you can understand and know that I really do understand because I've walked this out personally. So about 11 years ago, my daughter was about 9 months old, right around this time. And first baby, I thought maybe I was just experiencing some compounded grief after the death of my father, some complex PTSD, which absolutely did play a role. But then when my periods came back after my daughter was born, I knew this was not normal. I was having extremely heavy periods, extremely heavy bleeding, painful cramping, rage, meltdowns, irritability, mood swings, anxiety, insomnia, hot flashes, you name it. Like, I could check every box. I went to my primary care doctor and, using the insurance that we had at the time, which was not great, but I definitely expected better treatment. And basically got no answers. It was, well, it's not postpartum depression because your baby's too old, which, by the way, if you've listened to me for any amount of time, you know that that's not true. Postpartum depression can last really until you're done nursing. And I still was nursing at that time. I requested some labs to be drawn because I did have a basic understanding of maybe some things that could have been off. And she basically rolled her eyes at me and was like, I guess if you're going to twist my arm. And so immediately I was starting to question myself, like, okay, maybe there isn't something wrong with me. Maybe this is all just in my head. And maybe, I just was really confused. I didn't know why I was getting the treatment that I was getting or what I could do about it. And so this is a very common experience that women have, is that they're immediately second guessed, or they go in and they're only offered, mood stabilizers or hormone replacement therapy instead of having somebody really explain to them what's going on in their hormones. And as a side note, you don't need to manage your hormones. You don't need to control your hormones with a pill, okay? So that is not essential for 99.9% of women. Now, yes, there are cases where that may be the only option, but typically that's not the route that we need to go. So backing up, I didn't know what I needed. I was going to this practitioner, this doctor, to help me to understand what I needed. And instead of finding that out by, doing lab testing, which of course all came back normal except for low vitamin D, I really didn't get any answers, and I really was not satisfied with that because I could feel that something was just not right in my body. I was still very young, 26 years old at the time, and I knew that I should not be this sick. I should be able to function. I'm barely getting through the day. This insomnia is horrible. And I couldn't find anything to help me. I tried everything, melatonin, Benadryl, like everything on the market that you could think of, and I was not getting better. And I can tell you, I spend upwards of maybe 20 hours a month talking to women who I don't know personally, who are suffering the same way that I was. And so I really wanted to give a voice to that place in between, which is really needing to understand what you need in order to move forward, and having that basic understanding of what may be going on in your body so that you can better advocate, which then allows you to find a practitioner who's a really good fit for you. Because when you understand what you need, you know what to look for in a practitioner. So I went a completely different route, found a naturopath who happened to be fairly specialized in women's hormones, postpartum, etc. And he, basically sat me down, looked over my lab testing, looked over, my questionnaire that I had filled out, and literally, in the matter of 15 minutes, put it all together in essentially a presentation for me that helped me to understand these symptoms that I had had for my entire life. And now his process that he walked me through, while it was very beneficial and got me, tremendous results, it took me about 4 years to fully recover what the clients that I work with, are seeing in closer to 12 to 16 weeks at the most. So 3 months of their life, and they're starting to feel quite a bit better. And really what that comes down to is understanding what they need, and understanding where the gaps are in their process. So let's start with the basics. When we're talking about what we need to balance our hormones, you really, first of all, you need to be working with somebody that understands root causes. And what do I mean by root causes? There are many, many, many root causes of hormone dysfunction. But what I found in all of my research and development, that didn't only lead to the Happy Hormones program, but has led to the success that we have, is that those root causes can actually be boiled down to 3 main root systems. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today, because if you can understand what symptoms are in what category, you're going to have a much better, much easier time finding somebody to work with, knowing if a protocol is a good fit for you, and then being able to actually get some traction in your hormones. So when we're looking at symptom categories that are really, focused in on those root causes, the first and biggest root cause for women's hormone imbalances, specifically menstrual migraines, heavy periods, cramping, clotting, breast tenderness, those kind of symptoms, hot flashes, especially if you're not in menopause, really can be boiled down to the liver not metabolizing estrogen properly. And I have seen this time and time and time and time and time and time again, whether we do hormone testing or not. All of those symptoms point down, to the liver not metabolizing estrogen properly. And when your liver isn't metabolizing estrogen properly, what happens is your progesterone begins to naturally lower itself, because your estrogen and progesterone are like seesaw hormones. They work in biofeedback with each other, which means whatever happens to estrogen, progesterone is going to respond to. And so what I see a lot in my practice is women who have spent a lot of time, trying to titrate or work with their doctor to figure out the perfect progesterone supplementation, the perfect, medication regimen to balance their progesterone, but they haven't adequately actually addressed the liver dysfunction. And so when we do that through targeted nutrition and very, very, very gentle liver detoxification through food, what happens is that estrogen begins to slowly lower itself. So you already see an automatic reduction in those high estrogen symptoms. And then progesterone has a place to go if you are supplementing with it. So understanding your individual root cause patterns is a key here. And that's one of the things that we actually teach in the Hormone Wellness Academy, which is our monthly coaching membership. It's just $47 a month. You get access to twice a month coaching calls where we actually teach you how to identify your individual pattern and then give you those action steps that you need to move forward. So when we understand that the liver plays a huge role in this, we then know what to focus on. And then, when you go to your doctor or your naturopath or whoever, coach, whatever, if they're not addressing that as part of that protocol, you know that you need a different approach. The second big root issue that we see, in every single woman. I have yet to see a single woman that did not have issues in this category, is actually gut-brain disconnection. Now, I call it disconnection because it really is a lack of communication between the gut and the brain that causes global issues throughout the body. So, for women, when we're specifically talking about hormones, what this means is that there is an imbalance in bacteria in the gut due to stressors, antibiotic use, or even just pregnancy. And then not having the right bacteria in the gut means that those bacteria can't catalyze processes in the body to then communicate with the brain, because the brain is responsible for communicating to the ovaries, hey, we actually need to produce progesterone so that not only can we ovulate on time, but we can have a balanced mood, because progesterone is responsible for both. And so for women who experience mood swings, PMDD, PMS, anxiety, insomnia, fatigue, those all tend to fall into that gut-brain disconnection category. And we actually have 4 steps that women need to take to address all of those root causes very systematically, and in a very short period of time see tremendous results. So knowing that your symptoms are falling in a specific category will help you to know, again, with whoever you're working with, that their protocol is the best fit for you. And this is typically where I hear women say, yeah, I've been on a probiotic for years and it just hasn't done anything to touch my mood. And that's because probiotics are really just one piece of the picture. We actually need to look at digestion as a whole. Are you having bowel movements? What are your bowel movements like? Are you anxious a lot? Are you anxious at specific points of the day? Because that lets us know about specific nutritional imbalances. Are you getting regular protein intake? Are you eating carbohydrates? Like those kind of things, that looking at the whole digestive picture as well as your fight or flight response, when we address each of those systematically, that's what leads to that whole body healing, so that women get, radical results in their hormones for the rest of their life. And so, again, understanding, if you're listening to this and you're like, gosh, I have, 7 symptoms in this category, then whoever you need to work with needs to be addressing that in a very systematic way with a proven process that leads you to results. And if they're not addressing that, then they may not be the best practitioner for you. The third root cause that we see for all women who have hormone imbalances is inadequate nutrition. Now, I know you might be listening to this and you might be saying, well, I've got a couple pounds to lose, or I eat plenty of food, or I'm not malnourished. I'm not talking about having plenty of food. I'm talking about having the right nutrients to actually support all of the hormone processes that your body needs. So, like adequate thyroid function, adequate adrenal function. There's specific nutrients and minerals that your body actually requires to keep those things in balance and in check. And so this is typically where a lot of practitioners start, and they will start with supplementation, or they will start with like really attacking the diet heavily, putting women on really, strict diets like keto or intermittent fasting or paleo or no sugar. And that's really not what this is about. When we're talking about nourishing your hormones, we're talking about replenishing minerals through nutrition, replenishing nutrients through targeted food that actually supports all of those processes in the body. And so you're not second guessing. You're not like, okay, do I need this progesterone supplement? Do I need this estrogen supplement? You're not spending a bunch of time trying to perfectly titrate all of those things, or wasting your money on something that's actually not going to be beneficial for you. And so this is why knowing what you need and understanding the root causes of those symptoms, and then having a step-by-step process that's actually laid out for you, will help you to avoid all of those pitfalls that we tend to fall into when we're trying to figure things out on our own. And, I'm a big proponent. I love figuring things out on my own, but there comes a point where we do need to work with somebody on our hormones. We do need to work with somebody who has, a much greater understanding of what's going on in the body than we do. And so having that basic understanding of what you need and what your problem actually is will actually set you up for success when you do